Spring is over. Let's talk about the transfers and who's going to have a big impact for the Aggies this year.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Friday. Hope everybody has a great day today. We're going to talk a little bit about the baseball game. Just got done watching. It's Thursday, technically now, Friday morning. Thursday night, Friday morning, whatever you want to call it. Aggies get a huge win on the diamond. We'll talk about that game in segment 3. I'm really excited to break it down because as a pitcher, it brought me a lot of joy. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But first, I want to run through Texas A&M's transfer portal additions, whether they came in the winter, in the spring, whenever they came in. I want to talk about these names. I have them ranked, and we're going to talk about who's going to have the most significant impact for this team. The caveat I want to add to this, we heard from Coach Elko. When was that? Wednesday? He was at the baseball game as well tonight. It was Wednesday, Thursday, where he said, we have like 16, 8, 9 transfers who could start and like 16 transfers who are going to have an impact. So I have a bunch of names here, and I'm going to rank them based on the impact I think they could have this season. Some I might have too high, some I might have too low, but that's the fun of making this list. So number 1, I'll let everybody take a guess with the odds at minus 100 million trillion on who I have at number 1. Yes, you guessed it right. It is Nick Scorton, the Purdue transfer. I don't even feel like I need to sit here and talk long about him. I feel like everything y'all need to know about him, you know about him. And that's reality here. Nick Scorton is going to be a star. He's going to have a monster season. I said yesterday on our bold prediction show, I think he could lead the SEC in sacks. He is going to be a force. He is going to make opposing quarterbacks wake up screaming before on Friday night, knowing, man, Nick Scorton's going to be running after me all game long. That's just the reality here. So he's going to be a star. I don't need to sit here and talk too long about him. We know who he is. We saw him in the spring game. We saw him last year at Purdue. Dude's going to be a monster. We know that in the debate there. The next guy I have here is a very, very, very interesting name for me, I think. And it is Kali Faui. I'm still working on that. I'm trying to dial that in. The Utah transfer center. You might say, well, Andrew, why do you have Kali second? I'll tell you why. Because Bryce Foster's gone. And it looks like Kali's going to be the starting center. Yes, you've got a couple guys, Naboo. You've got some guys who can play center. But I think that you're going to want Naboo perhaps at a guard spot somewhere because he can play anywhere on the interior offensive line. I think Kali's a guy who you want playing center if he's going to be playing for you. I'm sure he could play other places in the interior offensive line, but I just think that's where he's going to be comfortable. And listen, somebody's got to play center. Somebody's going to have to do it. You can't just not have a center. We can't just have like a robot snap to Connor Wigman. Someone's going to have to do it. And I think it's going to be Kali. And listen, I have discussed time and time again the importance of the center position. The center position, you are the quarterback of the offensive line. You are calling out what's going on. You're going here, you're going here. Here's the mic. Here's the will. This is what's going on. You need to know what's going on with the linebackers. Read the defense. That is your job. And you are calling that out to your fellow offensive linemen. It is a very, very difficult position to play. And then you got to remember too, especially if you got a nose head up on you, you're snapping the football and then immediately contacting a massive human being. At tackle, you're not snapping the ball. You know what I mean? Like that's not like, okay, I got to do this, then this. It's just, okay, I need to stop that guy from getting to my quarterback. At center, you have a lot you got to do. And it's a tough position to play. It's a position where you got to be really stable between the ears. And watching tape on Kali, I think he can do it. I think he's a great player. So, yeah, he's a guy that we just found out about a few weeks ago. But listen, now that Bryce Foster's gone, look how valuable he becomes. And I think he's a great player. I really do. It's funny. I don't want to sit here and hate on Bryce Foster But I just think it was potentially time for a change this position. I still think he's a guy who could potentially be an NFL player. I do believe that. But, there were some snap issues last year. There were some issues with Foster last year. It seemed weird. We discussed time and time again with Coach Elko saying, oh, well, Bryce isn't going to be here for spring. He's doing stuff with track and field team. I don't know. It just felt like a change. It was time for a change, perhaps. And that's what you got. So Colley's your guy, I believe. Unless Naboo ends up being your guy, but I just think I'd rather both of them be out there. And I think this is the way you do that. So I have him at number 2. If y'all think I'm crazy and that's too high, tell me. But I'm telling you, you got to remember the importance of this position. The center position is so important. So that's why I have him that high. Number 3, Scooby Williams. I almost seriously just sang the Scooby-Doo theme song. I don't know why that just popped in my brain, but that almost did occur, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome that it did not. And I'm sure there's some copyright infringements there as well. But Scooby Williams, the Florida transfer linebacker, I believe he's going to be the guy standing next to Terry York. And we've discussed time and time again here at Locked On Aggies how important the front seven is going to be for this team. The secondary, there are some question marks there. We all know that. No debate to it. It's kind of funny. We're going to get to the secondary later in this discussion where you're going to hear me go, well, this guy's ranked here, but he could be ranked. I have him ranked 7, but he could be ranked 92. In all honesty, we really don't know what's going to happen in the secondary. I know the guys I like. I know what I saw in the spring game. I know what I've seen from high school tape for some of these guys. I know who I like. Last year tape, whatever it is. But I still don't think we totally know. So Scooby Williams, I think this front seven is going to be a huge part of this offense. And in all honesty, Scooby Williams, I think, is one of the most significant question marks of the front seven. I think if he ends up being really good, it's going to help this front seven be great. I think we know how good Terry York's going to be. If Scooby Williams can be a solid SEC linebacker with what you already know you have in Terry York, watch out. I mean, seriously, if he has a good season, this Texas A&M defense is going to be so scary. I mean, think about what we saw last year. You had a really good year from, of course, Cooper. Now he's playing with the Packers, and you got what you got out of Terry York. I think that could Terry York take over that Cooper role and Scooby Williams be the Terry York surprise. I know York was a freshman, so it's a little bit different, but like a surprise of, well, we think he's going to be fine, could be great. And if he's great, it's just going to be a huge boost to this defense. So Scooby Williams is number 3 for me. Number 4 is Cassius Howell. The transfer edge rusher had a lot of sacks last year, and I'm going to be honest with you, he's a guy that I think could have a good season. I do think he's going to be a depth piece. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think he's a guy who could have a really solid season. I do. I don't think he's going to give you as many sacks as he did last year. I don't think he's going to give you – I think I would be really stoked if you saw 5 sacks, maybe 6 from Cassius Howell. I think that's a very fair – I'd take that. I think everybody would take that. I think we can all agree on that. So that'd be the number that I think you'd be really happy with that from one of your first guy off the bench. So, he's a player that we need to make sure that he can come into the SEC and do it. But I believe he can. I don't have a ton of concerns. I think he's going to be fine making the move into the SEC. And I think he's going to have a really solid season. So I am excited to see how that pans out. Now, our first DB is Donovan Saunders, the Cal Poly transfer. Listen, he's been my guy for a while now. I feel really good about Donovan Saunders. We've heard a lot of good things. I think the coaching staff feels good about him. I just think he's going to do something special this season. I really do. I think he's going to be out there. I think he's going to be one of your corners. And it's funny because my next 2 players, I'm honest with you, they're corners too, and you can only have so many guys out there. It's going to be really interesting who plays the nickel, who plays outside. We know that Bryce Anderson is sliding back out to safety. So your corner spots are open, your nickel spot is open. And I really do believe that Donovan Saunders is going to take up one of those spots. But the problem is, I think the next 2 guys are too, and not everybody can play, and that is the problem. That is the problem with all of the names I have listed here, is not everybody can play. And we'll have to figure that out as we go. And I think the coaching staff is in the same boat that we are right now, figuring this out themselves. Got 5 more names we're going to run through, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our wonderful friends over at Game Time. I bought a ticket to a country music festival coming up here in a few weeks. And you say, well, Andrew, where'd you buy it? Where'd you buy it? I think y'all already know where I bought it. I bought it on Game Time. The only place I will ever purchase any kind of ticket for anything the rest of my entire life, whether it's a sporting event, a concert like I was just talking about, whether it's comedy, theater, whatever you want to go see. I'm getting ready to buy concert tickets for my dad. We're going to go see the Pixies. Getting ready to buy him and I tickets for his birthday. Where am I going to buy them? Once again, pretty simple answer. Game Time. It's the only place you should ever purchase tickets to anything. The best prices. I love how you can see your seat in the app. You can know where you're going to be sitting. I love all of the features. It is truly just a really solid app. You got to go check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So my next 2 names, I'm going to be honest with you. I have them grouped together. I have them 6/ like they're both, because I think one of these guys is going to be the dude. And it's Will Lee and Des Ricks. Now, I know Des Ricks was banged up in the spring. I have not heard an update to the extent of that injury. There were some floating around rumors of, some concerns. I haven't heard anything, any updates on that. Coach Elko does seem to keep injury stuff pretty close to his chest. So we'll just have to see. But I think both of them can be special players. In all honesty, I really could have, and it would have been a cheap on my part, but I could have put Donovan Saunders, Will Lee, and Des Ricks all next to one another on this list. I think they are all great players, and I think you're going to see of those guys, Jaden Hill, BJ Mays, you've got 5 guys, in all honesty, that you could see out there. That's just the reality here. So all of them are talented. All of them are really, really good football players. And I think some mix and match of those guys is going to create an elite cornerback room for the Aggies. So I'm really anxious to see how that pans out. But yeah, I think that these guys are going to be great. So the next guy I have here at number 7 is Armaj Reed Adams, the former Kansas offensive lineman. Another guy who we just heard really good things about from the coaching staff. He came in, he did a really good job, and it sounds like the staff feels pretty good about him. It sounds like the staff believes he can be a serious dude for this team. It sounds like the staff believes that he could potentially be out there and start. And I'll tell you, watching the tape on him, watching film on him, I believe it too. He's a big dude. He's a strong player. He did great in spring. It sounds like he's adjusting well to the locker room. He's adjusting well to his new teammates. I just think there's a lot going right for Armaj Reed Adams, and I don't think he's going to have any issues adjusting to the SEC. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Aggies. I'm starting to get fully convinced of that. So I'm kind of anxious to see how it works out. And is he out there as much as I think he's going to be out there? And I kind of think he's going to be out there a lot. The next name I have here is Cyrus Allen. Now, you got to hear me out on this. If Jabri Barber was healthy, he would be here ahead of Cyrus Allen. But we're talking transfers. We're not talking players on the roster. I can't say Mike Elko, I think Cyrus Allen, with the injuries, is going to have an impact. I think he's going to have more of an impact than Jacob Bostic, the most recent wide receiver addition. I think that Cyrus Allen is a good football player. I think he is. I think I've myself included in this, I've been a little bit more high on other guys than Allen, but he's a good player. Like, there's nothing wrong with Allen. I think he's a solid player. I think he could have a good season. I just definitely think that some things are going to have to happen for him to get a substantial amount of snaps. But you got to remember, this is the SEC. This is college football. There are going to be injuries. You're going to see injuries happen. It happens all the time. You are always going to see players get banged up. And when that happens, as it always inevitably does in this game we all love, you are going to see Cyrus Allen take a lot of snaps. I think you're going to see that happen a ton. I think he's going to have a good season. Not a huge, we're talking probably 300. Maybe 400 yards. I don't think it's going to be anything absurd unless somebody goes down all year long early in the season. And he really fills in as a WR3, then that's a different, story. But if somebody misses a few games here and there, there's a few sets for him, a few schemes for him, whatever it is, I think you're going to see him get a little bit of run, get a little bit of yardage. So he's a player that I don't think I was talking about enough either, but just because I was so high on Drew Barber, and then, of course, the painful injuries, hate to see him go down, great player, was excited to see what he's going to do this year. So, that's something that I'm definitely monitoring is this receiver room, and I think that Cyrus Allen is going to be a part of it. I think he's going to be a legit depth piece part of this wide receiver room. So we're going to see how that pans out. The next guy I have here is another one that I think some folks might go, huh, really? And that's Rodas Johnson, the transfer from Wisconsin. Rodas Johnson is a guy who really had solid numbers during his time at Wisconsin. He's a guy that I think what I like about him is his ability to play multiple positions. And when you're a depth piece, which is what Johnson is going to be, he's going to be a depth piece. You need to be flexible in positions you can play, especially on the defensive line. He can play all over. He can do it all. He's a big, strong kid. He can play lots of different positions. And I think that's going to really help him get some serious snaps this season. So, I'm definitely, paying attention to that. I think he's a player that is a little bit underrated in the fact that he can do it all. He's a guy, and I seriously, that cannot be discussed enough. I love that he can play all over. Not a lot of players can do that. We saw McKinley Jackson played a few different. He played a little bit of defensive tackle, a little bit of nose. Walter Nolan can play multiple positions. There's lots of, he's that style of defensive lineman who can play multiple different positions. But you can't, what I'm trying to get across here is they're just so valuable. And that's what Rodas Johnson is. I think he's just such a valuable asset to this team. I think he's a player that really is going to make this football team better. And I don't think it's going to be a filling up the stat sheet type role. I don't think he's going to have 9 sacks or anything crazy. I think it's going to be, he's going to do his job. He's going to make some big tackles. He's going to get a little bit of pressure when he can. He's going to make the right play, the veteran play, and the smart play. And I think that is exactly what the Aggies need. My last name I have here is Trey Watson, the tight end. Another guy who was banged up a little bit in spring. And hear me out. I know Ratcliffe and Jones, some of these safeties, there's a lot of names I wanted to mix in here. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. I think I might have a whole another episode just dedicated to the transfers in the secondary because, there are so many question marks surrounding it. I want to continue to get that point across. Yes, I think they'll end up having a top 10 impact, but we just don't know yet. It's you're going to have to see it play out. So that's why, they're here in my honorable mention list, and I think one of those two guys is going to have a huge role. But the question is who, and we really just don't seem to know right now. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Trey Watson, the tight end transfer, and I think this is strictly because, not once again, I know he's banged up, but this is strictly because of how much Coach Klein loves to use the tight end position. He loves the tight end position. He loves to get the football to his tight ends. He's all about getting the football, to the big guys. He's about having them help block. This position is going to play a huge role. And I think Watson, I know he got banged up, but before, the coaching staff was talking very highly of him. I think that he's a guy, get healthy, get good to go, and he's going to be in a really good spot. So does he overtake Donovan Green? I don't believe that's going to be the case, but I do think that there's a world where he can have a good enough season to be the tight end 2, tight end 3, and still play some relevant snaps. So that is my 10th guy. Let me know in the YouTube comments, are there any players that y'all thought should be here that I didn't have here? There's a ton more names. The Aggies brought in a ton of transfers. There's a lot more names you could have listed here. If there's one that you would have liked to have seen, someone that I should have higher, lower, whatever, let me know in the YouTube comments. But now it's time. I know everyone's been excited about it. The Aggies get a huge win last night over the Arkansas Razorbacks on the baseball field. Take a 1-0 series lead. One of the most fun baseball games I've watched in a long time, and I can't wait to break it down. We'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So, huge win for the Aggies. 1-0 win, 11th inning, a walk-off walk, which is one of the most fun things to say, one of the most exciting things to see in a baseball game, one of the most exciting, unexciting things to see in a baseball game. So, first of all, great eye by Burton. That pitcher came in. It was 4 balls to 1 strike, but a lot of those were tough to eat off-speed pitches, slider, change, whatever it was. I forget now, but off-speed pitches. And he did a great job laying off. I know, we've all been there to play baseball. It's bases loaded, game on the line, 2 outs, bottom extra innings, bottom 9th, and you just want to jack one out of the ballpark or drop a double, win the game. We've all been there. And Burton did a good job. Hey, I want to win the game. I don't care if I hit a walk-off double in the gap. I want to win the game. Kept the bat on his shoulder when he needed to. Drew the huge walk-off walk. And then Sorrell, what a darn catch. My goodness. You don't win the game if it's for that catch. The angle of that baseball, I think it would have stayed in the yard. I don't know that, but you still would have gotten a run out of it, guaranteed. So you never know if that falls, what happened momentum-wise. Huge catch. Laviolette was 2 for 5 in this game with the base knock that gave you first and third in the bottom of the 11th, which, of course, ended up that run came around to score thanks to the walk from Burton. A couple big knocks from him and a loud double as well. And then Chestnut was 2 for 4 in this game. So, listen, now let's talk about it. Was this game pretty? No, ladies and gentlemen, it was not. The Aggies struck out 20 times, count that, 20 strikeouts, and won the baseball game. You know why? Because you can tip your cap to 2 guys, to Prager and Eschenbach. They were absolutely incredible. Prager goes 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, 5 hits. Of course, no earned runs because the Razorbacks didn't score. Eschenbach goes 4 innings of 4-hit baseball with 4 strikeouts. Also, of course, does not allow a run. And those were some high-pressure innings when you're pitching in an extra innings, pitching in those late innings. Great job from these guys. Listen, you get the first win on a Hagen Smith bump night. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all, now that we've won this ball game, appreciate watching that young man pitch. He's a star. He's so good. And you beat him. Now, you didn't really beat him. You beat them, but still, you won the game. And that is all that mattered. You got their ace out of the way. They've won. Here's the deal. They haven't lost with him on the bump, and that's why you beat him. You just got to beat some of their not as dominant arms in these next 2 games. You got to win 1 game in your top 8 seed. Simple as that. Win one of these next 2 games. I still believe you are. If you don't, I do believe that. But just don't make this stressful. Win 1 baseball game and lock it down for sure. Or sweep them. Heck, sweep them. I'm fine with that too. Pitching was incredible. I mean, just incredible. You're able, and then just for this team, I mean, the atmosphere was incredible. Just to be gritty and say, we're not losing this game. I don't care how many times we struck out. I don't care. We are winning this baseball game. I love this baseball team. And I know y'all agree with me on that. It was just a fun game, ladies and gentlemen. It was a fun game. I'm still on my adrenaline bump from it. I mean, it's still settling in on me. And then of course, the only negative I want to talk about is Montgomery is still in this slump. And it's funny when you say slump, the dude's still batting 325, whatever, with nearly 30 bombs. But 4 strikeouts today. You would love to see him get it figured out before the postseason, to get it going these next 2 games, maybe an ACC tournament, get rock and rolling before you host a regional, hopefully host a super, and then hopefully make the trip to Omaha. So that's the only negative here. Got to see Monty get going. He's such a great player. He's in a bit of a slump. Baseball slumps go hand in hand. They happen. Got to get them out of it so this team can make a run because they really, really need them to get going. What a win. Huge win. My confidence in the Aggies winning this series skyrocketed from winning this baseball game. The Razorbacks had some opportunities to punch you, to get a run there late in the game, put the pressure on, and you did a great job keeping them off the scoreboard and then getting the run when it matters the most and winning the game. What a win for the Aggies. Huge. That's going to do it for this week here at Locked On Aggies. I hope everybody has an outstanding weekend. Enjoy the rest of this baseball series. Need a big series win. Hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you on Monday.